Hey friends, how are you? It's been an interesting few years, and I think we've talked a little bit about what grief looks like and what that means in the context of our faith. Sometimes we have to call out to God and we have to trust Him. Lord, where are you? What are you doing? When I look to the future, when I look to my present, where are you? I'm in a season right now of just reflection, of looking towards the past and the future and recognizing that maybe there's some more healing that needs to be done in my own life, which is okay. I think what blows my mind in the midst of that is God's present in this. And whenever I'm in a moment like this, I have to stop and look back at David and the Psalms. We have a very honest, open picture of what faith looks like in that midst. To wonder, where is God when things are difficult? Where is He when we don't know what's next? What I love about Psalm 62 is it doesn't give us any answers. It asks some questions, but it invites us to stop and be present before God, to just hold those moments before Him and say, Lord, I'm going to trust you even when I don't understand. I'm excited to explore that with you and just see and share what God's doing in my life with you after this. The last few years of my life have been peculiar. To really have some places where I'm satisfied, I'm comfortable, I'm looking forward to the future, and yet there's conflict. And the conflict just keeps coming. Some of that is definitely on me, and then in other times I have to stop and go, there's bigger pictures of what's going on. Because when we look into what God's doing, and we look at what He's saying, we also have to recognize that there's going to be forces that come against us. Now, we're not devil chasing here. That's not what I'm suggesting. But we have to recognize that sometimes it's the internal stuff that requires the most amount of work. In Psalm 62, we enter into David at an interesting time in his life. David, if you don't know, was Israel's greatest king. He established the temple and started to gather all of the pieces so his son could build it. Israel, his nation, knew wealth unlike any other time. Everyone was coming to their land to discover what it was that David had. And here's David, a man who never should have been king, who was the youngest in his tribe and didn't look anything like you'd expect out of a king, who is now at the top of the world. And yet, through numerous times in his life, people came after him. In fact, his own son came after him to kill him and to take his crown that wasn't his. There's a depth of relationship that comes through those pieces that I think sometimes I struggle with. I don't want that kind of depth. I mean, I want the depth, I just don't want what it takes to get there. And that's the struggle for me, to do the deep self-reflection, to wait, to not be busy, and to allow God to really do the hollowing out of the difficult things. I want to read, and this passage is going to look a little different for you today, because what we're going to do is we're going to read Psalm 62 in 3 different sections. And then I want to give you and myself time to just reflect on what it is that David had to say. And from that, allow God to speak to us. Because I don't take enough time to just stop and be still before Him, to meditate on who He is and what He's saying to me. So today, we're going to do that a little bit differently and just explore that together as we wait on what God's going to do. I wait quietly before God, for my victory comes from Him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress where I will never be shaken. So many enemies against one man, all of them trying to kill me. To them, I'm just a broken down wall or a tottering fence. They plan to topple me from my high position. They delight in telling lies about me. They praise me to my face, but curse me in their hearts. I'm not very good at waiting. I'm not very good at staying silent. I want answers, and I want them now. And I want retribution and justice. And yet David is inviting me to not seek those things, but to just stop and wait and allow God to do his work. There's no answer. There's no pieces here that David comes to some kind of a revelation that makes his life instantly easier. No. It's so much more difficult than that, isn't it? Instead, he waits quietly before God. What does that look like in your life? It was 2 years ago. I was working with some leaders who, to my face, would say one thing, and then behind my back, go and do something entirely different. I can't tell you how challenging that is for me personally, because I trust some of these people. They were friends. And to have somebody not be honest with me is incredibly difficult. Underneath that is a piece of allowing God to restore my trust in him. Because through that time, I cried out. I let God know what I wanted, what I needed, what he'd promised to give me. And you know what? It wasn't fulfilled. What I wanted, I didn't get. I have to stop and just wrestle with that for a little while. God, where are you when I don't get what I think that I want? When it seems that evil wins, and when there is no path before. Those are the hard times of faith, the things that draw us out. And yet, David waits before the Lord. What are you waiting for today? Let all that I am wait quietly before God, for my hope is in him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress where I will not be shaken. My victory and honor come from God alone. He is my refuge, a rock where no enemy can reach me. O my people, trust in him at all times. Put your heart to him, for God is our refuge. It's funny to sit and think about the anxiety and the fears that I have about how I approach the future and the past. But I'm so worried about what's going to happen and about what my life is going to look like. Because time and again, every time that I think that I'm down and out, every time that I'm calling out to God that he needs to do something, he delivers. And yet my faith and my trust is so little. 7 years ago, I stepped away from a position that was difficult, but steady for me. I had a job, my wife was entering school, and I knew everything was going to be okay. And yet, in that moment, God called me to step away. For 3 months, I was unemployed. And then God opened a door that I would have never expected. All the doors that I thought should have been opened, that by all accounts I was qualified for, closed. This one, God opened. It was one of the most transformative 3 years of my life, meeting leaders from all around the world who are doing incredible things to see gospel transformation in their own communities, often at great sacrifice to themselves. I wouldn't be the man that I am today without those few years. Stepping away from there, God gave me a year of transition, of healing from some traumatic experiences. And then He leads me to where I am today, where there's periods of grace and struggle, but in the midst of that, deep, deep friendships and a calling to see a city that traditionally has not been reached for the gospel in a totally different way. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm not sure how that's going to take root. But you know what? As I read this psalm, it doesn't matter. You may not know what your future holds. You may not know what's next. You may not know how God is going to bring this all about. Hear from me. He's faithful. I'm preaching that to myself too. I'm so worried. And yet, what do I have to be worried about? God is present with us. And so, can I be still and just wait? Not shouting, not screaming, not begging, but just still. Allow my heart to say and do the things that it's going to do. And then let it go. God, you're going to be the one that's going to do it. And I'm going to choose to trust you. Because I think in those moments, when I think about sharing the gospel with others, when I think about what it really looks like to see transformation, it begins with a level of trust that's not that much different from insanity. I think of Noah starting to build a boat for a world that had never seen rain. You've got to be crazy, Noah. What are you doing? What is this thing? He spent over 100 years building this thing. Abram, waiting for a child. David, waiting to become king. Jesus, going to a cross, dying, and trusting that his Father and the Spirit were going to bring him back. These are the stories of faith that drive us forward and that prove the very thing that we believe. Sometimes my own worry and my own plans take me away from the opportunity to allow God to work because I'm not willing to be still and just wait. Are there areas in your life right now that you're not trusting? Are there areas where you're planning and scheming good things to do, but God's inviting you to just come before him and wait, to let go of the worry and to wait? That's what I hear out of this psalm. Common people are as worthless as a puff of wind, and the powerful are not what they appear to be. If you weigh them on scales together, they are lighter than a breath of air. Don't make your living by extortion or put your hope in stealing. And if your wealth increases, don't make it the center of your life. God has spoken plainly, and I have heard it many times. Power, O God, belongs to you. Unfailing love, O Lord, is yours. Surely you repay all people according to what they've done. And so now we come to that piece that we have to confront in our own lives. I want control. I want to be the one who knows and controls my own destiny. David's talking here and saying, look, common people, they come and they go. Rich people, they think that they've got it all figured out, but in reality, they don't hold any power at all. No. It's you, oh God, who holds all the power. You're the one who has it. Unfailing love is yours, O Lord, he says. And so, we may not see justice. We may not see the things that we think that we know or deserve in our time. But are we willing to wait? Are we willing to allow God to work those plans out in his own time? There's something beautiful in that. Frustrating, but so beautiful. And there's a couple times in life where I think we have to face that for ourselves. Sometimes it's money related, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's other people that we can't control. Sometimes it's our own bodies that seem to be fighting against us. And we go, God, where are you in the midst of that? Why are you not doing something for me? Why aren't you showing up? And it's easy to beat your head against the wall and just feel like it's getting nowhere. And yet here's David inviting you and inviting me to stop and just hold it before God. Lord, I'm going to wait on you. Lord, would you show yourself? Because I'm going to choose to trust you. That to me is the biggest piece. I can't see the future. I know the past. It speaks of a testimony, but I can't see the future. I don't know how he's going to show up. I don't know how it's going to look, but I know that he's trustworthy. I know that he's just, and I know that he works all things out for good. What did you hear? What is it that God's saying to you? And are you willing to take that time to just stop and hold that before him and then be still and silent and say, God, I trust you. Everything is confusing, but I trust you. Come meet us in this place. Friends, wherever you happen to be, he's trustworthy. Take the time to be still, to put your hope in him, to trust him. May the Lord bless you and keep you, wherever you happen to be. Praying with you and for you. See you soon.